All right. This is MechLink. Welcome back. And I may be fuzzy, but the run is ready. So I'm going to send you to the Final Fantasy Legend with puwexil and his commentary crew. And everybody get ready to enjoy.
All right, hello everybody. I am puwexil. My pleasure to be joined by my friends caeshura and Gyre. Going to be doing a run of the Final Fantasy Legend, also known as the first game in the Saga series. And we'll just kick things off, and then we'll need the character name cut off for the start, and then we'll get started with the timer after naming that. So, unlike a lot of other old school RPGs, we're not really going off on a journey to avenge our destroyed hometown or fight evil or something like that. We're just going on a fun little adventure to climb a tower that's rumored to lead to paradise. And one kind of cool and unique thing about this game is that you have a lot of control over your character builds, too. There's 3 races you can play as: humans, mutants, and monsters, all 3 of which will be play fairly differently, and all 3 of which we'll be seeing in the run, at least briefly. But we're going to pick our starter character, who is a Red Bull, later known as a Red Horn in later versions of this game for obvious reasons. And then what is our Red Bull's name going to be?
Your Red Bull's name, I had to refresh a bit, is Andy, A-N-D-Y.
A-N-D-Y. We don't
All
hear the host
capital.
in our ears, by the way. A-N-D-Y.
Does it matter if it's all caps or anything?
I believe it was all caps.
Okay.
Just looking over at the host to double check. Yes, okay.
Did we want to fix the host audio before getting started?
We're good.
Okay. All right, well, with that out of the way, we will get started in 3, 2, 1, go!
Good luck.
Good luck. Get your 10,000 steps in up this tower.
Yep. All right, so first order of business is just to fill out the rest of our party formation, and we do that with 2 albatrosses, which are a type of monster, and then a female mutant, and then we are on our way. So again, goal is to climb this mysterious tower in search of paradise, but we run into a little bit of a problem right away, that the front door to the tower is locked. And it's not only been locked, it's been locked by a fiend named Genbu, who basically used a black sphere in order to seal the tower. And to get that sphere, we need to find 3 hero relics, basically, and return them to a statue that the black sphere is in.
And right off the bat, it's kind of neat that you can do these in basically any order. So this is pretty open world for just going, you're right into the game. You know that you've got a problem, but you don't really know what the real problem objective of this game is going to be. And you can choose for these little starting problems which one you want to go after first.
Yeah, you may have noticed with that first encounter there that I tried to run away, failed, and then fought the goblin. And that's actually because the first about 15 minutes or so of this run, if everything goes well, is actually fully manipulated. This is a pretty old game and uses a pretty simplistic pseudo-random number generator that certain aspects of which are pretty easy to manipulate. So while I'm in the first world of the game, and then the monsters are still pretty weak, I'm able to just kind of script the battle outcomes fully. So did those couple fights, and then I'm kind of farming an encounter right outside the castle where the one of the relics, the King's Sword, is. And then doing that actually then sets up that I actually meet a fellow Red Bull right inside the castle here, which is actually a fairly rare encounter. And not only do I get the encounter, but then after I defeat the Red Bull, I actually get a meat drop from it, because all 3 races in this game kind of level up differently. And the way that monsters evolve is by eating meat dropped by other monsters, which with kind of the right routing lets you get strong very quickly without really any kind of need to ever grind. And then
So that monster you had ate the Red Bull and turned into a slime.
Into a slime, yeah, makes total sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah, we'll be seeing a lot of the slime family of monsters in this run, just because slimes have an attack called Melt that, in addition to ignoring certain types of defense, also heals the slime based on the amount of damage dealt. But we don't want skeleton meat because it's
Too bony.
little too bony and high in calcium.
Yeah, the monster meat evolutions is one of probably the most complicated things about this game because it's basically taking the class of the monster that you are, the class that you're eating, and figuring out what to turn into. And there's also a level system, which in Final Fantasy Legend 1 is very broken. We'll see how quickly you can advance some of these monsters to their higher forms. That's something that actually gets fixed in Final Fantasy Legend 2, where they kind of realize that you need to control how quickly you can eat meat, or else your monster's going to get really overpowered in a hurry.
Yeah, now we thank our mutant for her services. I moved her to the front of the party so that she'd take the first attack from King's Sword here, and then because of the battles still being manipulated, then I just know that that's going to happen, and then the second attack is going to hit my newly evolved slime, who actually has enough HP and defense to tank the hit.
And of the three objectives, the King's Sword is probably the most dangerous one to go after early without manipulation, because the King's Sword will do a lot of critical hits, and you can definitely get into trouble quite quickly. But with the manipulation, because we know exactly what the battle outcomes are going to be, it's a lot safer to do these type of maneuvers.
Yeah, didn't really talk about it too much because I didn't want to jinx it too badly too, but despite the fact that the fights are all being scripted out at this point, there is one kind of critical thing that's not really kind of easily manipulatable, and that's NPC movements. And you noticed how there were those randomly moving guards inside the Sword King's castle, and I had some kind of close calls with them too, and if I actually bumped into one of those guards, that would actually trigger an unrunnable fight, and that would actually pretty much completely break my manipulation route. I do have some backups planned, which is like why I saved right in front of King's Sword, but it's very, very nice to not need to do it. Just be able to roll with what I'm used to.
Yeah, those guards are extremely scary. They move usually double turns, so they can actually take 2 steps before you can move again. So while you're taking a step, they could just go zigzagging right into your face.
All right, so we've got the first hero relic now, the King's Sword, for the mere price of an active regicide, because the Sword King didn't want to give it to us without a fight. And so now we're going after the hero's armor, the second relic, to get the black sphere that we need to get into the tower. And for that one, I kind of look at it that the king who has the armor kind of heard what happened to the Sword King, and instead of challenging us to a fight, instead offers to give us the armor in exchange for defeating a tribe of bandits that's threatening his fiancée's village. It's like the leader of the bandits is demanding that this woman marry him instead of the Armor King, so we're going to go put a stop to that. And fortunately, we don't actually need to go talk to the Armor King in order to find out that objective. We can just head straight to the bandits' hideout. And then that zombie there I actually fought instead of running from, just because I just know, because it's scripted at this point, that it would have taken many attempts to run away. It was faster to just fight it instead. And if you'd have guessed that the leader of this tribe of bandits was a poisonous frog that looks more like a lizard, you'd be correct. I just love how just kind of deliciously wacky this game is.
It's a bandit clan of frogs, and that's why frogs are food, not friends. Because if you don't get rid of them early, they become bandits and try and steal your fiancé.
They're also delicious.
Also delicious.
Yep, I just ate the meat of a poisonous frog to evolve my other albatross into an oni, which is a type of goblin. We're not going to be using the oni for too long, but it's very useful for the next couple forest fights because it has a stronger melee skill called Horn. All right, so then we're just going to go head to the Armor King's castle to claim our prize. And I guess while we're on their way there, I guess if we've gotten the audio situation fixed, do we want to hear a few words from our host?
I'd love to. First, Kodiak with $20 says, "Happy RPG LB, everybody, and good luck, puwexil. I'm a big fan, particularly now that I know that we have the same favorite Final Fantasy. I could never get a handle on the Saga progression system as a kid, but it's fascinating to hear about it now. Thanks for everything y'all are doing. Donation to puwexil's Choice." What is puwexil's Choice?
Let's say the Chained Echoes Super Boss incentive, if that hasn't been met yet.
Yeah, that's got a bit of a distance to go. All right. We also have Wells putting down 100 with a good luck, Big Papa.
Thank you, Wells.
I was shocked to hear puwexil's favorite Final Fantasy. I don't want to repeat it because you really need to hear it from his mouth. So once that interview is up on YouTube, definitely go check that out because it was world breaking, life changing.
Yeah,
even.
over a decade in the making. All right, so we've got the hero's armor relic now, and then we just need to get the shield. We could, if we'd have gone after the shield earlier, we would have just gotten kicked out by the soldiers. But after we have the other two, we can head into the castle here to go for the shield.
Surely the king will be like, "Oh, you've got both of those. You can have my shield, right?"
But there's drama afoot in Shield Kingdom where we find out that the Shield King has actually been murdered by his steward or Chancellor, I'd like to say, just because Chancellors are always evil in JRPGs, and then the Chancellor tries to frame us for the murder.
The Chancellor is also two monsters in one.
Three, actually. Yeah, this is an old game on a small Game Boy screen, so when you have multiple monsters of the same type, there's only one sprite there. But yeah, he just says alas and then runs away, but doesn't quite make it too far. We're able to catch up with him down here. Don't even need to use the strong attack from the Oni. You're scum, you make me sick. I like the put down there.
And you also get the shield.
Yep. Alright, so we've gotten all three of the relics, so we're heading into the town of Hero, where the statue is. Make a quick stop at the inn to recover our health, but more importantly, recover our monster skill usages, because monster skills have a finite number of uses before you need to stay at an inn to recover them. So
You get Sphere.
Yeah.
Yep. And now you smashed it.
Yep. But Genbu, the Black Tortoise Fiend, because even though this isn't quote-unquote real Final Fantasy, there's still 4 fiends, in this case based on Chinese mythology. I believe 4 constellations, kind of sometimes known as the 4 symbols, and then Genbu is the Black Tortoise, and isn't too happy that we recovered the Black Sphere, and then tries to put an end to that.
He had the tower all nice and sealed off, and now we're going and messing it all up.
I think one thing we didn't mention is that even though you went to the end and healed up, you still have your character dead at the back. And death is pretty brutal in this game. You have a very limited number of revives even, so that if a character dies too many times that they just can't be revived at all, you have to replace them. But in this case, we also want to intentionally replace some of these characters so that you can get newer and better friends.
Yep. Yeah, because this game has I like to call it kind of a permadeath style system where characters all have a stat called heart, basically where every character starts with 3 hearts, and then revival through normal means, which is a clinic or a house of healing in towns, kind of consumes 1 heart, and then once there's no more hearts, that character is just dead, basically. And then in order to make it so that you can't kind of easily at least make the game incompletable, there's guilds like that one right there where I got my initial party that I can use to replace dead characters. And then yeah, I'm gonna be making periodic use of shoutouts to that slime face, by the way, too. I always appreciate that. So yeah, like right here, remember battles are still all scripted out. I'm actually that wolf just took a bite out of my Oni, which and that's all planned basically, because before I get to the next town that has an adventurers guild in it, I want 2 dead characters that I can replace, and then I now have that.
Yep, there's no way to kick characters out of your party. They have to be dead to be replaced. And then as you go through the game also, you get better and better options. Like the monsters that you had in the starting guild are not as good as the monsters that you're going to have in guilds later on.
The luchador.
Yep. Yeah, the sprite always reminds me of luchador wrestlers, and we'll be becoming one of them eventually, too.
All right. Can I break in for a little bit while you climb the tower to floor 5?
Yeah, just want to point out here, for this fight here, I'm just fighting for 1 turn and then running in order to set up being able to actually run from the next fight instead of dying horribly to it. So with that said, go take it away,
Yep,
Mecha.
carrying an RNG manip. We've got a couple more donations specifically for you. We have Kefka with $15 saying, Puwexil was the runner whose content got me into speedrunning. A wealth of knowledge, a pro at running, and excellent commentary. Thanks for being an awesome runner, and good luck.
Thank you.
Agree with all of the above.
And then we have Greenlee the Squirrel with $25 saying, careful, Dan is on the team. Again, referring to Final Fantasy Legend 2's bid war for character name.
Sounds dangerous.
Uh-oh.
All right, so if we'd have kept trying to climb up in the tower, we would have eventually run into another locked door sealed by magic of blue. So we're heading into this next more expansive world called the World of Ocean in order to try to find a blue sphere in order to unseal that. So yeah, like we talked about a bit ago, we're stopping at the Adventurers Guild here in order to replace our two dead characters, this time with two female humans, humans just being very good with weapons. And then I believe we do females because they have higher agility. Then we stop at this shop here to buy a battle sword, which it is an actual weapon that humans and mutants can use, but for our purposes it's a quest item. And then we're also going to stop at the item shop here to pick up a couple packs of X potions, which are a nice healing item.
Just out of curiosity, what does the agility stat influence in this game?
I believe turn order. It's a little debatable, I'd say, just given how the RNG in the game works, but that's my understanding at least. All right, so then if we'd have kind of talked to NPCs, we'd basically just get some hints to tell us that the blue sphere we're looking for is in an undersea castle held by a fiend named Seirayu, the blue dragon, and kind of our first order of business to get to that castle is to find a way to cross the seas. So we're going through these undersea tunnels here to look for some kind of ocean transportation. And I did a party swap earlier too, just to set it up so that for basically the two encounters that I can't run from quickly in these tunnels, that the slime takes the brunt of the damage, just because the slime's the only one that can really tank hits right now.
Shoutouts to that cute beholder eye.
Yep.
I guess that one's the evil eye. The beholder is later.
Yep. And if you'd have guessed that our means of crossing the ocean is our own portable island, you'd be correct.
I've always wanted my own island that kind of looks like a jellyfish.
Yep, same. So then, now that we have our island, we need a means to breathe underwater, which we get by getting the air seed from that tree there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Go buy that house. Buy house.
Yep. Heal up the damage we took there, and then with that, we were actually done with the RNG manipulation segment of the run, because if I'd have kept swimming to the north, I would have eventually run into a 3-pack of aquatic werewolves that would have basically killed multiple characters no matter what type of party formation I did. And from this point forward, we're going to be using fairly different strategies for just survival through the walks through areas that have encounters, and it's going to be just making very heavy use of the in-game save system. Since this is a Game Boy game that was made to be played kind of in short bursts on the go, you have the ability to save anywhere, and then we can make very liberal use of that in order to kind of avoid taking damage in fights, risking character deaths, and having to deal with that permadeath system. So what you're going to be seeing me do a lot is trying to run from fights, and if I fail, I'm just going to hold down AB, start and select to do an in-game soft reset, and then just kind of keep going, because there are little bits of kind of step routing and other manipulation, but it's not really easy to do when we're doing this overall strategy, because like there's a repeating pattern of how many steps till the next encounter over the course of 256 steps, but every time I soft reset, I kind of have a effectively random entry point into that pattern. So there are a couple times here and there where if I get multiple successful fleas in a row, I can recognize where I'm at and know that I've got like a nice chunk of save steps coming up, and I can cool down on the save scumming a little bit, but I have to get kind of decently lucky for that. And then I also credit this being a kind of a Game Boy game with limited memory to why when we get to the Sea Dragon's castle, we just have the bouncy overworld theme instead of some kind of more sinister sounding dungeon theme. Doing a little trick here, actually, to kind of clip through that octopus there, because another thing about NPCs in this game is that whenever the game kind of loads a map, either because you enter it, you come out of a fight, or you load a save file, all NPCs get respawned on their starting positions. So I took advantage of that by kind of stepping onto the tile where the octopus guard is, and then reloading, which let me kind of clip through it without triggering an unrunnable fight, which is what would normally happen when you touch it.
Some other things that happen when you do that soft reset, there is, just like the encounters, a progression list for whether there's going to be a meat drop for the next monster that you kill, whether you can successfully run or not. All that is just purely random. And every time you do a soft reset, it'll reset that position in that list. So if you're doing a full manipulation of the run, you'd be able to control all those factors, but you would never be able to reset or try things again.
Yeah.
And these guards moving around is the reason why it's very, very difficult to get a full manipulation through. And it actually turns out to be slower because you have to run from a lot of fights. Whereas here you can just soft reset or retry the fights much more easily.
And this now is probably a great time to talk about the rules for this category too, which is any % no saw skill. So there's a pretty infamous bugged ability in Final Fantasy Legend called Saw, which is basically short for chainsaw. And that's a skill that we'd have access to around this part in a straight any % run. And the way Saw was likely intended to work was to basically kill a target that's weaker than the user of the Saw skill. But because of some issues with the math, it actually works out that Saw will instantly kill anything that's stronger than the user. And then since this is a speedrun where we're kind of not really going out of our way to level up, you can probably see where that's going, because there's nothing in the game that's totally immune to the Saw skill, up to and including the final boss. So the rule set I'm used is just the only restriction is just that I can't use the Saw skill, which is it's mostly a monster skill, but you can also buy chainsaw weapons for human characters to use in the late game. And then the fact that I can't do that also is another reason why it's hard and slow to try to do full manipulation very deep into the game.
I have to admit that the first couple of times I heard you say saw skill, I kept hearing sauce kill. I was like, I thought this was no sauce. Oh!
Alright, so we picked up a key on the bottom floor, and then we also made a little pit stop into a treasure room to pick up some grenades. I just love how you've got monsters using fire breaths and slime dissolve powers, and mutants using like X-Men style superpowers, and then humans that can throw grenades and bazookas and stuff, all coexisting within the same battle party.
I mean, that's really the way that the Saga series works, is that you have all these different races living together. They're completely kind of mixed up in terms of, like, there's not a dedicated town for each of the races. And they all are very, very different in terms of how they behave and work. And we'll also see beyond these also the robots that started to come in with Saga 2 after this.
Yeah, they introduced a lot more playable races into later Saga games. All right, so if we'd have kind of talked to more people, we'd have gotten some hints to basically look where the lines cross. So once we get into Seirayu's Inner Sanctum here, we look at kind of where the two rows of orbs intersect to find the correct one. And now we hope for a meat drop, which we got.
Yes!
All right. Then we use that to evolve Andy, our starting Red Bull, into a Woodman, which is a type of golem, basically. We're not going to be using the Woodman for very much, but it's a gateway towards a much more useful monster form that we'll be using in the next major world after this.
And I always find it funny that Seiryu is, as I recall, a blue dragon that's got the red orb, but that's only half of the blue orb?
Yeah, we'll figure out the blue orb portion of this in just a second here. We're working on that.
Yeah. Somehow Seirayu only actually had half of the blue sphere that we need in order to unlock the next door in the tower. So now we're going to use a hint that we should have gotten by this point and didn't, to look for the old man. Basically, is our hint for this world. And the old man conveniently lives in this kind of seaside villa here.
I like how it's seaside, but these are very, very much pine trees.
Yeah.
It looks like he's walking in a weird pattern because there's a tree stump that you didn't see that he was dodging around.
And then the old man, who looks like Dr. Wily from the Mega Man series to me, gives us basically a math puzzle where he gives us kind of a shopping list, basically, and then the way we solve the puzzle is by adding up the sale price of all the items he tells us, and then the price for that ends up being the price of a battle sword. So that's why we bought a battle sword earlier. And then I did a couple resets there. One, because after you get the puzzle, you normally have to leave and come back in order to be able to solve it. But if I just save and reload, then that counts as leaving and come back. And then after getting the sphere, I reset it again to make Ryu-O, the King Dragon in Japanese, that the old man just disappears, so I could walk out a little faster. All right, so we've gotten our blue sphere, unsealed the next door, and we're gonna head on up to the next couple floors in the tower. So Mecha, take it away.
Gladly. We have a couple donations. TP Silvertown put in $100 for the robot option in Final Fantasy Legend 2 with the comment, Robo-Dan.
There will be some beeping. There will be some hugging. There will definitely be robots in Final Fantasy Legend 2.
Yep. And Tim and Paul put in $50 with no comment, but as always, that is welcome. Thank you for your donations. RPG Limit Break 2024 proudly supports the National Alliance on Mental Illness. To get involved in the fight against the negative stigma around mental illness, please reach out to NAMI via their state-level organizations, on Facebook, where they can be found as NAMI, or on Instagram and Twitter as @NAMICommunicate. Remember, it's not a weakness to need help. Please reach out if you feel like you need it. And we have a number of donation incentives. I mentioned Final Fantasy Legend 2, which is the next run. You have a bid war for robot, human, mutant, or monster, and robot is now winning. It went from 3 to 103 with that one donation, and then human at 50, mutant at 15, and monster at 10. Naming the hero, Dan is at 140 now, with Nuke at 75 and Nami at 5. Those are both the next run, so you've got, by estimate, you have under an hour to get that in there.
Yeah, we'll probably be closing those off when puwexil beats the final boss of this game.
Something like that, yes. And of course, beyond that, we have the super boss fight in Chained Echoes, which puwexil chose as his. That is at 550 of 1,000.
Nice.
We have Chained Echoes. You could choose the mech color. We have purple at 95, blue at 50, green at 25, and orange and red with nothing. Plenty of time to get to that, because that's after both Legend 2 and Romancing Saga 2 Remaster. The final character bid war for Romancing Saga 2 Remaster has Final Empress at 35 and Final Emperor at 0. So plenty of space in that bid war as well. We're finally made it to floor 10.
Yeah.
So, are you talking to Top Hat here? Or?
I talked to him on right after leaving floor 5, actually.
Excellent. So
yeah.
There's a recurring character that you have throughout this game who is a mysterious stranger that appears in this tower. And you can get to the very end of the game without ever talking to this mysterious stranger, but then bad things are going to happen. So we just need to make sure that he did it at least once. Mm-hmm. That way everything is going to be okay.
All right, so our next full-size world is the world of Skies, which is a world that's ruled with an iron fist by the white tiger fiend, Byakko. And I love the diversity in this weapon shop, by the way, too. We've got swords, we've got a musket, we've got a whip, we've got grenades, which we're going to buy, and then we've also got a wand.
And ice.
Again, just love how so many diverse things are just kind of melded together in the world of Saga.
I think it's kind of silly if you think about, like, there's all that things and then there's just a bucket of ice.
Yeah. And then I also threw some story items I don't need anymore onto my humans when I'm equipping them with grenades too, just to get them, because you get them out of my inventory, because you can only hold 8 loose items at a time, which fills up pretty fast, especially when I've got potions and stuff too. So once at that point when I don't need like the key from Seirayu's castle anymore, I just equip it on a character to get rid of it, basically.
Delicious mosquito meat.
Okay, so kind of the hints we get from the Top Hat man outside and then from the NPCs here is just that the the resistance leader against Byakko was recently killed, and he has 2 twin daughters named Jean and Mireille who took over leading the resistance, and they between them know the secret of the white sphere that we need to progress in the tower. So we kind of pretend to join up with Byakko's forces by beating up some mosquitoes in the local bar, of course, and then we find out where Jean is, and then go track her down, and then find out that there's other monsters about to capture her. And I like the dialogue leading up to this fight too. Like, should we help her? You ask a silly question.
It's like we're fighting garlic.
And garlic can drop meat too, which I just picture as just being like a head of garlic.
I joked about bringing like a whole head of garlic here, but I don't know what I would do with the whole head of garlic at a hotel.
Okay, we got the garlic meat, yes, which we don't want. If I got the... Oh, yeah, and we also just abandoned Jean at this point, because we don't actually have to talk to her to progress the story.
You may notice that Andy right now has a lot of HP and everybody else still has 60. It's the amount of progression, as Gyre had mentioned, to how monsters evolve is very, very... It's used towards our advantage.
Dramatic.
Dramatic, there we go, words.
Yeah, monsters will always have the same stat based on the class that they are. So if you have a very high-level monster, they're going to have great HP and great stats. Whereas something like a human, they're going to get their stats progressively throughout the game. And so they're going to very quickly fall behind the monsters if you can eat meat really quickly.
Yeah, so we have this... Basically, once we've found Jean, we basically want to go report report on our findings back to Byakko, because we're still pretending to be working for him. And yeah, these guards really, really, really like to tell us where to go.
He really wanted to talk to you. He just jumped up the steps to tell you.
That's where you're seeing that double step in action when we're talking about how dangerous it was at the start of the game in King Sword's castle. You can't even see the guards when they do the 2 steps.
Yeah,
so it looks like you're
They are out for blood tonight, too.
Jump in front.
As far as how many times they're blocking me. This is another place where just having the freedom to save and reload, because I'm not doing full manipulation, makes a difference, too.
With the wit key.
Wit key. All right. So then, yeah. So basically, we're using our access to Byakko's floating sky castle now that we've found Jean to go try to find Mireille, who's the other resistance leader who's being held prisoner here. And Mireille is being guarded by more saber cats, like the part of that group we just fought there. And if I'd have gotten the saber cat that was in that last required fight to drop its meat, that would have been nice. But because now I actually have to farm it, basically.
Oh, nice.
If I did not get it naturally, I would have had to retry the fight until I did.
You may have noticed outside in the sky area that the clouds are kind of moving, but inside they're not.
It's an old game.
Yeah. Yeah. For RAM reasons, sometimes the clouds just don't move.
Becca just turns the clouds off to save on budget.
Yeah. Gotta save on the bills somewhere.
Get our obligatory, easily escapable JRPG prison, where, in addition to monsters, there's also a sword being held in jail, which we'll go ahead and
take
rescue
me.
Here.
Ah!
I'm not actually going to use that. That was just for fun. Let's see.
I didn't realize the sword talks.
Yeah. And we go fight a fellow luchador imp to get out. And then for this fight, I used the meat from the saber cat to evolve my slime into a jelly, which is just, it's the same thing, only better, as far as having a better melt skill and better stats. And because I only get 10 melts, and then I'm out and would have to stay at an inn to recover them, since I didn't actually need one for that imp fight, I just had the imp use Bother. Which is a agility debuff skill instead. It's totally useless, but since there's no defend option in this game or other way to pass a turn without doing something, assuming you can do something, I just used Bother in order to not waste melt. So then we fight another set of imps here. So we got 4 of them. Hopefully, if anybody dies, I'll have to retry the fight, but it's looking good so far. This is where those grenades are really, really useful too, because they hit an entire group of enemies. All right, so we dispose of the imps and get the key to the prison, which is conveniently located inside of the prison.
That's where I would keep it too. Definitely. Not worried about people breaking out.
Let me go into the glider dock here to steal a glider to escape from the prison. And then, yeah, I guess something else I glossed over too is that Murray turned out had betrayed the resistance and was working with Byakko, but then Byakko just threw us in prison. But we go track down basically the shrine where the white sphere is supposed to be, but then Murray's services to Byakko are at an end, and he tries to kill her, but Jean kind of intercepts the hit and dies instead. And now we actually fight Byakko.
Who went from bipedal to
Quadrupedal.
and also has 2 extra arms.
So this fight is usually, I want to say, 3 turns, maybe 4. Yeah, Byakko is trying to use the power of the white sphere against us, and it does nothing, which is has some story significance coming up shortly. And kind of hoping that one of the humans dies at some point during this fight, because I'm gonna eventually need to get them killed off to replace with better friends eventually. Oh yeah, shoutouts to this music, by the way, too, called Heartful Tears, which we'll be hearing again in the next run too. But then Byakko with his last energy tries to destroy the white sphere, and then we learn that it was a fake. Basically, the real white sphere is created by Jean's tears.
It was the friends we made along the way.
Yep. Alright, so I'm just going to rearrange my party a bit here. And then using the sphere early kind of lets me get out of some text I'd normally get if I used the sphere directly in front of the door. Alright, so back into the tower we go, climbing up to the next kind of full-size world, and then I guess with that, you know what that time means, Mecca?
I do. Hopefully your humans will die on the way. In the meanwhile, we do have a couple of donations that have come in. We have an anonymous $50 donation saying, "Finally catching a puwexil run live so I can finally share something. It was watching your VOD of your Chrono Trigger run with Essentia at SGDQ 2015. It got me into the world of speedrunning.
Oh, nice.
I never looked back, and it's a world that's gotten me through some tough spots over the years since. So thank you to all speedrunners for doing what you do, but an extra thank you to you, puwexil, for being that guy."
Well, thanks for the compliment.
And then we have Boogie Poppy with $100 saying, "Hi, I was recently tricked into adopting a Nagama, and I was hoping you had some advice on what to feed it. I'm all out of hot dogs, and it won't stop staring at my cat. Thanks in advance for your help."
Just use any meat that you've got on hand.
Are you sure it's an Agama and not an Alf?
Got a little preview of coming attractions, too, by the way, by seeing these statues of what are called shachihikos, which are, I believe, Japanese mythological creatures that are part dragon and part carp. Will be
100% dolphin.
Yep. Or dolphins, as they're called in the world of Saga.
One thing you haven't really talked about going up here, but we're skipping over a lot of little side areas that are kind of neat in this game. We're only going to do the main worlds because that's required for the storyline. But there is a lot of little tiny problems that, like, you might have to solve somebody's drainage issue in one room.
That's my favorite one, yeah.
And it's like, all right, here's a neat side quest. It's totally optional. There's no impact at all, but it's a way to get additional treasure. You get more lore about the world and things like that. So if you ever play the Final Fantasy Legend, be certain to seek out all of the little areas off on the sides here, and don't just climb up to the tower to the top.
We get to solve somebody's sewage problems?
Yep.
Oh. On the way up to Paradise, we're also plumbers. Good to know.
That's how we earn our ticket to Paradise, apparently. Alright, so now we are in the World of Ruins, not to be confused with the World of Ruin from Final Fantasy VI, the game before this. Got very lucky there, because the World of Ruin, which is very, very blatantly post-apocalyptic Tokyo in the Japanese version of this game, was kind of laid waste by Suzaku, the Red Bird, who's the fourth fiend. And when we initially get here, the only overworld encounter is Suzaku, and it's the highest encounter rate in the game, basically 1 out of 4 steps. And Suzaku is invincible due to having a force field, so kind of our first order of business is to go through this subway tunnel here to try to kind of hide out, kind of get around without running into Suzaku.
The fun thing is you can kill Suzaku with a chainsaw, just don't care.
Yep. And then along our way, we run into this girl who's being attacked by these atom ants. And this fight right here is kind of the biggest reason why I was trying to conserve melts for my jellies because I basically want the 2 humans that have grenades to die, preferably to this fight, if not earlier. Okay, good. And assuming that happens, then if I was more liberal with my melts, I'd be running into some risks of just running out of them and being unable to actually win the fight. And then I'd have to reload and try it again at that point. And if I didn't have enough melts going in, then that might have some bad news. But
I encourage everybody at home to go back and look at the adamant sprite because the little mandibles look like cheese, like halves of the cheese wheel. You're welcome.
So we head into this kind of resistance town against Suzaku called Shibuya, I believe, and we meet the leader of the resistance, which is kind of more of an Akira-style biker gang, and the leader's name is Socho, and we find out that the girl we rescued from the Adamants is Socho's sister, named Sayaka, and then we kind of quickly get enlisted in their cause and get sent off to go look for some components in order to make a weapon called Erase 99 in order to be able to neutralize Suzaku's force field and actually fight him. So once we get on the bike, we can that dramatically lowers the encounter rate. Suzaku is still looking for us, but it cuts the encounter rate from 64 out of 256 to 13 out of 256, I believe. And in addition, we can also use the bike to go over these ruined city block tiles. And then for most of them, up until a spot that's about a screen width to the east of here, if I go over them, I don't get any encounters with Suzaku. So I basically route here to try to hit as many of those tiles as possible. And then there's clues you're meant to piece together at this point to look for an invisible town called Akiba, which is based on Akihabara in Tokyo. And that's where one of the components for Race 99 is. Called the ROM. And the ROM is required to progress, but before I leave Akiba, I also pop into this other building to get a revival item here, which just lets you revive a dead character without having to go to a town.
I know that puwexil said his favorite Final Fantasy is on the ROM. Gyre, what do you think is on the ROM?
I mean, I wasn't paying attention. I'm really embarrassed about that. I'm going to have to go back and watch that video to see what he said for that Final Fantasy.
All right, so then we head to the not invisible town of Amayoko, where we stay at the inn mainly to recover the jellies, skill charges, and then we also stop at the guild here to replace them with the Chimera, who I'm going to name after our friends at Nami, and then a Stone Man, which is a golem type monster that we're going to be evolving into a much better form fairly soon. And the Chimera we are actually going to be using in combat, just because it has a very, very strong melee skill called 3 Heads. Alright, so with the ROM and the board, we're going to head back to Shibuya to turn them in to Socho. Again, I'm timing my safety saves when I'm about to leave one of these city blocks here, just because there's no encounters on the city tiles.
I'm always impressed with how seamless it looks like your safety saving right there is.
You get a lot of practice at it with this game.
Yeah.
We ride our motorcycle into the bar and then talk to Socho, and then we find out basically the last component that we need to make Erase 99, the weapon we need to fight Suzaku, is plutonium, which we're going to head to the nearby nuclear reactor to pick up. And then we try to sneak off to avoid putting Socho and friends in danger, but they very quickly wise up to us and then catch us in very cartoonish fashion, where they like all 8 or however many of them just kind of appear out of thin air. So now we head to through this subway tunnel here to go to the nuclear reactor.
And a weird glitchy bit is that you can see that they're on a bike as well, but it really is just copying your sprite, and so if you're in certain states, they'll be incorrectly drawn there. There's a lot of very small things that kind of detail-wise you kind of catch up into in these games, including like where he's going on this water tile here. Those are actually all free safe squares.
All right, so we're in the we're inside the nuclear plant now. Again, where we're going to get some plutonium to get the 1.21 gigawatts needed to power Race 99. And then on the second floor of the reactor, we're going to have kind of our last really significant potential to lose time because of bad luck, and that's kind of the last meat drop that I need in the run that's not more or less guaranteed. And once I round this corner here, we see a fellow slime creature here, but it turns out it's actually an evil eye. I love the kind of beholder-style sprite in this game that has the kind of cute little eyelashes and everything. We'll be seeing this again in Final Fantasy Legend 2, but it's got a much more kind of gruesome appearance with like dangling optic nerves and stuff. Alright, sadly I did not get the evil eye meat first try, so we will just do it again.
There's actually another area that he could be farming evil eyes at, but it's a little bit later in the game, and so you would be missing out on having your upgraded monster for a fight.
Along with this just being required to get to the next boss, too. So, taking advantage of the Chimera's 3 heads ability. The reason why I actually named the Chimera, too, was just that I can actually tell when it's taking damage in battle, because the Chimera only has 262 HP, which isn't really a lot at this point. It's enough to tank one hit from most of the bosses it fights, but I need it to more or less be full going into most fights.
We get the grind.
Yep. This run's been good. I thought this run was going almost too well up until this point, but
Meat luck is a very massive component of many Saga games.
Yep.
It's particularly funny to me because I've been watching you practice, and your last 3 runs were all first-time evil drop.
I can confirm that was what it was like in the practice room, too.
Yeah. There we go. All right, so I used the evil eye meat that I got first try to evolve the stone man that I just recruited back at the last guild into a pudding, which in addition to being a tasty dessert delicacy is also the strongest version of the slime family. So in addition to having melt and bother, it actually has some other abilities too, one of which I'll be using. All right, so then Socho catches up with us and then basically decides to sacrifice himself to destroy a barrier that's blocking access to the reactor core. Just do a quick check of the Chimera's health. Okay, we're all good.
One other thing that's blocking access to the reactor core, of course.
Of course.
Is our good friend.
Warmech.
Warmech.
Does Warmech have meat?
Sadly, no.
Aww.
He's still delicious, though.
Warmech meat would be a little too powerful for the Game Boy to handle. It's really, really rare, by the way, for my for the starter character who's named Andy to actually still be alive at this point. Usually he dies to either Byakko or the Atom Man, so I guess it was nice of him to tank a hit from Warmech. And then just fun little lore too. The reason why Warmech is called Machine here is because in the Japanese version of Final Fantasy I, Warmech is called Death Machine. It's called Death Machine in the Japanese version of this game too, but English character limits being a thing, they just shortened it to Machine. Alright, so then with that, we've acquired the plutonium and then head back to Shibuya, but then find out that while we were at the nuclear plant, Suzaku raided Shibuya and killed most of the people there and then abducted Sayaka and took her to this skyscraper, as it's called here, and then in the Japanese version it's actually called Shinjuku Subway Station, which is a major subway station in Tokyo.
Which is hopefully not as hard to get around in as it is in this game.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Shinjuku Subway Station?
I haven't been to Shinjuku Station directly, but I believe that it probably has like a lot of big stations in Japan have like
dark rooms
or
rooms with no lights and escalators.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But also department stores like are kind of several floors up. Oh, actually, Gyre, I wanted to tell something to puwexil that you might know, but actually, Warmech is about 10 agamas in a mobile suit. That's your agama fact.
I personally think the most amazing thing about the Shinjuku station is the floorway full of stairs.
Yes, which we'll be seeing very soon.
I love the dark rooms that you have to go through without seeing anything.
He's actually on escalators that'll push you in the direction, so it looks a little bit more difficult than it is, but you have to find out which way to go, because one way will go down, one way will go up, and then there's just all kinds of secret passageways that have zero indication about where you need to walk through.
Yeah, that's the worst part about Japanese subways is that they're just invisible, like walls that look like they're blocking you that you can just go through.
And very unnecessarily long hallways.
Yeah, yeah, that, when you're trying to get to the platform and you have to run through a long hallway like this, it's just the worst.
Yep.
They just keep going.
Yeah, somebody in late 80s Squaresoft was feeling pretty spiteful when they designed the layout to this dungeon. And then these spike tiles here do actually hurt you. You lose 1 hit point every step on them. You'll just have to take my word for it because there's no like flashing effect or anything that's kind of common in games like this. Fortunately, that's pretty inconsequential. Oh, and yeah, those escalator dark rooms were just a warm-up, by the way, too. Now we've got this invisible maze.
Yeah, you can very briefly see where the floor is whenever the transition happens into a battle, but that's your only indication about where you can walk in this.
There's no like item or anything?
Nope, not that I know of.
Wow. What do these other like fake doors do?
I think they just go into like treasure rooms or rooms where there's lore or stuff like that, or just dead ends where there's monsters.
Oh, okay.
It's not quite as bad as Final Fantasy II, where you got thrown into the middle of a giant room with all kinds of encounters and really high encounter rate. But this was the team that made Final Fantasy II.
Yes.
So you can see that they were still inspired by that.
Yeah, the Countess has my favorite nickname for those rooms in Final Fantasy II, which is Monster Closets.
I like that.
Yep. Oh yeah, and I'd be remiss if I didn't just shout out the music in this game, by the way, too. Because even though this isn't quote-unquote real Final Fantasy, this is, I believe, the only Game Boy RPG with the complete Nobuo Uematsu soundtrack. Oh yeah, and we're on the previously mentioned all stairs floor too, where every tile that's not a wall or out of bounds or whatever is a fake staircase, and we just have to kind of bonk around until we find the correct one. These kind of remind me of reverse cell phone reception meters, too. Alright, then fortunately, I mean, it'd be pretty sadistic if there was like randomness to where the correct staircase was, but fortunately it's always in the same spot. So
Donuts.
Then now we find just a cleverly placed subway car here.
I have no idea what those moving circles are supposed to be, but they look like donuts to me.
I think that is the no suplex sign.
Do not suplex the train.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's the case in this game, but there's other Saga games where you can actually learn to suplex.
Can you suplex trains? I find this part interesting when you're moving between cars because there are actually between subway and train cars in Japan these like closed. They kind of look like accordions in a way, and they connect the cars so that you can travel between them safely. Mostly to find a seat.
Yeah,
We got our very slightly out of bounds evil eye up there.
yeah.
Hi.
That may look like a female mutant, but that's really an evil eye in disguise. And there's actually an older route for this category that instead of getting a chimera back in Amayoko, would actually use a route to farm more meat drops from that evil eye, because you can fight it multiple times to try to get a full party worth of puddings. But in addition to the chimera, oh, nice slime face again, by the way. In addition to the chimera just being really good against Warmech, that would just mean more luck. You'd have to go break your way in order to get the meat drops. All right, just quick check my health. All right, we're good. All right, so let me go find a Suzaku flunky here, and then we have finally have our showdown with Suzaku on the roof of the subway car.
You fool!
And Suzaku, despite having been invincible at an earlier point, is actually quite a bit less dangerous than Warmech as far as how much damage his attacks do. So for this one, for my pudding, again, the ultimate slime, I don't really need to worry about losing health, because again, using melt recovers the slime's health, so I'm using gas instead, which is an attack that does more or less the same damage, but it lets me conserve my melts for the next boss. And then, yeah, and then you might be noticing too just how fast these boss fights are going too, even though I'm not using the Saw skill to one-shot them, just because kind of like we've been talking about throughout this run, the monster evolution system is really strong as far as how you can use it to get overpowered very quickly, and then kind of around when we get the pudding and the chimera, that's kind of when we just start to get really overpowered, and we're able to take down the next couple bosses in 2 or 3 turns. All right, so we rescued Sayaka, and then she became the new Socho, which we kind of learned is more of a title for the leader of that world than a formal name, and then gives us the red sphere, which lets us keep going.
You did briefly when puwexil walked through that area just now. You also saw the top hat man, who's just kind and hanging out in weird places to give us hints.
Yep, and then if we'd have been talking to more characters and like visiting more side areas to learn lore, we'd learn that there's actually an archfiend that is the leader of the four fiends that we've fought so far, named Ashura, and Ashura is at the top of the tower, guarding the door to paradise. And then there is one room too where we can get some hints about there possibly being a stronger force than Ashura out there too, but the last page is blank, so we don't quite know.
Ashura, not to be confused with caeshura, or is it?
Well, do you happen to have 4 more arms hidden under that hoodie?
I'm not allowed to tell you.
Ignorance is bliss.
I also signed an NDA.
If I've got a few.
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right. We've got some donations. Shadow Killer with $10. What a good-looking crew on camera right now. Good luck with.
Thanks, Kay.
Good luck with the run, puwexil. Keep up the good work. CT Meat. We have Cassin 2K4, yeah. $15. Gyre wearing black gloves. 2 large black clamps positioned on the table in front of him. Is there something nefarious going on in this run? Parentheses, good luck, puwexil.
Thank you, Cassini2K4. It is actually very cold here in Utah, which is unusual for the state.
That's true. Yep. Reminder, everybody, we are reaching the end of this run as we make the second longest climb. So get your donations into the next run. If you want to have the Final Fantasy Legend 2 character be named anything but Dan, or you want anything but a robot, you should probably get your opinion in, because those are the winning names at the moment.
Even if you would like it to be named Dan or Robot, you can still donate.
It's true.
We'll let you do this.
Mm-hmm.
You can run up the score. Dan's at 240 over Nuke at 75.
Yeah. Wow.
I'd like to point out, too, that a couple floors ago I got a fight, a free step, and then another fight, and I ran from both of them. And that actually cued me into where in the encounter pattern I was. So I kind of knew after that point that I had a lot of steps to go to before the next fight would come up. All right, so we finally come face to face with Ashura, who basically offers to let us take the place of the 4 fiends we've defeated, and of course we say no. So we're gonna go fight Ashura now.
I mean, there's only 3 of us, so one of us would have had to double up, and that wouldn't be any fun. So
yeah, and none of us wanted to rule the ruined world we just got out of too.
Yeah.
So this Ashura is why I wanted to conserve melts on the pudding as much as possible too. Like I used 2 on Warmech, just because Warmech is very dangerous, but saved them on Suzaku just so that I can try to have 8 going into the Ashura fight, because I do want Ashura to kill everybody except the pudding eventually, but that can also lead to situations where I run out of melts before beating Ashura, but no problems there. Ashura is a troll, by the way, too, and has a hidden pitfall in front of him, which is why I had to sidestep to avoid falling into it. But Ashura has one last trick up his 6 sleeves with a pitfall in front of the door to paradise that drops us all the way back down to the base town where we started the game. And most of the kind of key story NPCs that that we met along the way are chilling here and kind of give us words of encouragement. But we kind of fill out our party with gummies, which are basically the second strongest type of a slime, and then we break the 4 spheres, and then use that to kind of unlock a secret entrance to the tower, which I kind of call the express elevator to paradise. And then we find that the 4 fiends have been revived by somebody other than Caeshura, because we've beaten Caeshura, and are blocking our access.
That's rude. We fought our way to be able to get all of those spheres to get up here fair and square.
Because this is actually Gimbu 2, not Gimbu. These are the backup fiends.
Yeah.
See, there were already backup fiends. Caeshura was just trying to, I don't know, trick us either way. He had backups.
All right, then we have our last evolution there, where Andy, our starting hero, evolves from an imp. Because Andy's unfortunately been more or less dead weight for the past leg of the run, but then he gets a really, really, really big boost when eating Genbu 2's meat and becomes a beholder, which is even though it looks like another slime type character who are able to walk on legs despite the battle sprite for the slime just being a confused looking face in a puddle. By the way, it's a fairly different type of monster that has some really, really nasty abilities that I won't spoil what they are until I'm able to show them off very soon.
That meat drop is a very high chance of happening, but is actually not guaranteed for Genbu 2 meat, so you can be very, very sad when you get like the 1% no meat in a speedrun.
Yeah, the first fight with Seirayu is the same way, where it usually happens, but when it doesn't, it's very sad. Alright, speaking of Seirayu, say hi to Seirayu, too, and
Hi, Seirayu.
say bye.
Too. Bye, Seirayu,
Bye-bye.
too.
Yeah, the Stone Gaze move is powerful enough that it is used even in the any percent speedrun with the Saw skill, because the monster that has the Gaze goes faster than the monster that has Saw.
Yeah, so the remaining Fiend refights are not immune to being petrified, so once I've gotten the Beholder, I just use its Stone Gaze ability in order to insta-kill them, and then I use Bother with the slimes, both to not waste melts, because I'm going to need every one that I can get for the final boss, and also just because the Bother typically doesn't work on these fights, so there's no animation. So it's faster that way if one of them actually outspeeds the Beholder. Alright, so with that said, we've got a lot more climbing to do as we kind of take the express escalator to paradise, which I kind of envision as being this magical staircase that kind of circles around the outside of the tower to get back up to where Caeshura dropped us down. So with that, why don't you tell us what you got, Mecha?
Sure. I will tell you that after this run, the next run is Final Fantasy Legend 2 with Gyre, who you might recognize as the runner. In the meantime, we have lots of donation incentives open for both Final Fantasy Legend 2 and the runs beyond. Refresh them real quick. Wow, Mutant took a big jump there all of a sudden. There must be a donation involved.
I wouldn't mind seeing a Mutant run myself. You never know what's going to happen.
I'm curious.
Yeah, Mutant run would be pretty wild. We've got named heroes still Dan holding strong. Romancing Saga 2 Remaster still Final Empress at 35 and Final Emperor at 0 for the final character. Purple is still winning in Chained Echoes with 95, blue at 50, green at 25, and orange and red at 0. And the Chained Echo Super Boss fight is still at 550. You can donate to any of those and get our great prizes. Pearlers of the 4 main choosable character types from Final Fantasy Legend 2, or the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster Collection. And of course, you would be contributing to the longer-term prizes of the Buster Sword with a $250 minimum across the entire marathon donation, and the $75 custom Game Boy Advance Game Boy SP. That's $75 over the first half of the marathon.
Keep it coming. We got a lot more
Yeah,
climbing to do.
yep.
Yeah, we still have to fight. We still have to refight Suzaku.
Yep, it's a long way up the tower.
That Buster Sword is really cool, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
It is like as tall as me. Granted, I'm not very tall.
I'll point out one thing we skipped by here was a box that contains shoes. Mutants can have magic in this game, and they're often going to be using magical attacks, but humans are unable to use magic at all, unless they're wearing these special shoes that you only get at the very, very end of the game, and would be completely useless to go and redesign your entire party at this point right now.
Oh, is that the chest by Suzaku too?
Yeah.
Okay.
You get the shoes. I think you get the Excalibur here as well for one of the rewards.
All right. While we continue to climb, I'd just like to say a few more words on NAMI. The National Alliance on Mental Illness's current work is informed by more than 40 years of inspiring conversation, support, and action that ultimately strengthens the fabric of communities and promotes opportunities to thrive for anyone touched by the mental illness. NAMI draws on her past accomplishments, the wisdom of lived experiences, and current scientific understanding of mental health to help those that are suffering.
We are almost at the top of this tower. It lies to you about your location for the second tower. It always says you're on the first floor, but the first tower that you went through was tracking your floor progress. You maximum 23 floors. That was the tallest we got up to when we fought Ashura. We have almost climbed 23 floors again.
Yeah, there's a whole teleport system that's just not used in the route for this category that I think is used in the any % category that lets you teleport between floors. But I'm guessing that's probably why they say floor 1 is just to prevent you from cheating.
Yeah, it's used in the manipulated run to be able to get back to the end of the start of the game and refill and things.
Right, because if you use the teleports now, if you teleport to floor 2, you'll go to old tower 2. Right.
And then as old as this game is, too, I do love what they did with this particular screen here at the very, very top of the tower, where we find another kind of magical escalator that is taking us up into the heavens, and then they use the limited resources in order to visualize that by having the shading and colors in the background gradually get darker and darker. But now we've reached kind of a mysterious white field here, which I guess is paradise. And there's kind of one last surprise in store for us, which is finally finding out the truth behind the mysterious Top Hat Man, who we find out is God, basically, or the creator, because they didn't like religious references in English RPGs around this time. And then we basically find out that God actually created Ashura kind of as a game to amuse himself, to kind of challenge heroes to fight Ashura and his fiends and prove their power. And we don't take that very well, so we challenged the creator to a fight. And believe it or not, I do think that this game did come out during a time where fighting God in an RPG wasn't quite as big of a trope yet. So, and then this right here is one of the reasons why I love running this game without the Saw skill, is actually getting to hear the creator's boss theme in full, because if you use the Saw skill, you kill him in one hit.
At the end of the fight, it'll still look like you use the Saw skill,
Yep.
so you can't even tell.
Yep. And the creator has 5,000 HP, which is a lot for this game. So this takes about 5 turns typically, I want to say. But I'm very, very safe. I mean, the creator isn't susceptible to anything the beholder can really do, but the slimes are just kind of pumping out the damage and then healing themselves in the process. So as long as I have melt charges, I can't lose. And then get ready on time, by the way, too. Time is when I beat the creator.
Are you going to do that one thing?
We're a little behind schedule.
Fair.
I had some issues in practice, so
Yep. Nope.
we're just gonna win. We jam out to the theme.
It is a very nice theme.
This should be the last hit here. And time.
Right.
All right. So with that out of the way, we've defeated the creator and gained the right, I guess, to choose our own destiny. And then we kind of choose. We find a final door that would presumably lead us to the real paradise. But then we just decide that the true paradise was the friends we made and arranged to have killed off and replaced by stronger friends along the way, along with all the tasty meat we feasted upon. So Let's see. It looks like I've got a 106, which that's it's only about 2-3 minutes behind my PB, which isn't bad after with that trolling that the evil high mead gave me. So yeah, it's nice. So yeah. Then for whatever reason in the English version of the Final Fantasy Legend, there's no closing credits or anything. So we kind of just get a series of flashbacks here, and this is only about like 3 minutes or so. So gonna just do our shout outs here, and then move on to Final Fantasy Legend 2. So yeah, I guess big shout outs to Cat Claw, who's basically kind of the world's premier saga scientist, I like to say, who's done just a lot of science and routing behind a lot of the games in the Saga series, especially including this one. I believe he does currently hold the any % record too on the Super Game Boy 2 at around 54 minutes or so. And he has guides and spreadsheets online that I found very, very helpful as far as figuring out how this game works behind the scenes, as far as like doing the manipulation at the very start of the game. That was kind of more based very heavily on his routing for the any % category, like using that to get the Red Bull meat drop and get some favorable encounters after that, along with just kind of understanding how this game works behind the scenes. Shout outs to a tool-assisted speedrunner named Darkman45, who has also some really good notes on the TAS videos forum for the science behind this game. And then also my shout out is to a Japanese speedrunner named Baku Zero, who I like to call Mr. Saga, and he's either got the record or very good times in all the Japanese versions of these Game Boy Saga games. And then the overall routing for the No Saw Skill category largely came from his record on the Japanese version. And our last thoughts are, see you again.
See you again. Or
see you again in the Japanese version.
Well, we've had the Final Fantasy Legend, but now there is second Final Fantasy Legend. Let's have a little break, and host, can you take us away?
Yep.
All right, thank you, Gyre, for the handoff, and I'm Mechalink, and we are going to run some ads and get right back with you. We've got Final Fantasy Legend 2 coming up, along with some donations to read.
Still
All right, everybody, welcome back. I've got a couple of donations in the last run that I'd like to read to you. We have Chibi Scala at 15 saying, "Can Andy make it to paradise? Can Dan defeat the banana smugglers? We shall see. Good luck with your runs, puwexil and Gyre." We have a Platypus with 25 saying, "I love RPG Limit Break. Having a difficult week with my anxiety, so love to see these cozy runs helping out Nami." And then that big donation that got Mutant up in the lead from Wudge1, $200 for "I can't vote for Thief, so let's go for Mutant. Good luck, Gyre." All right, and we are all here for... So we are here to donate to NAMI. RPG Limit Break 2024 proudly supports the National Alliance on Mental Illness. National Alliance on Mental Illness is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization. NAMI provides advocacy, education, support, and public awareness to improve the lives of all individuals and families affected by mental illness. NAMI exists to ensure that no one is alone on their mental health journey. All right, I had a bit of a coughing fit there. Didn't want to bother you with any of that. So we are still taking donations. We have a number of prizes. I rushed through them earlier, but now I can give them a little more time. The RPG Limit Break staff has gotten us a Buster Sword replica. It is enormous. It is a $250 donation cumulatively over the entire marathon. If you want to get in for that, just donate money and it will count towards your total. For the first half of the marathon, we have a custom Game Boy Advance SP. Sorry, see what I mean? Provided by Custom Game Boys. It has a minimum $75 across the first half. My apologies to everyone. Again, custom Game Boy Advance SP for $75 in the first half of the marathon, cumulatively, provided by Custom Game Boys, and that's specifically until Live Alive. We have the Human and Monster Perlers as pair for a minimum $5 donation. Until the end. Excuse me, provided by Red Silvers until the end of this run. Thank you, chat, for your support. don't know what crawled into my throat. I hope it wasn't any terrorists from Final Fantasy Legend 2. Last few prizes we have are another $5 pair for the Esper and the Robot, again provided by Red Silvers until the end of Final Fantasy Legend 2. And then finally, a $15 donation gets you access to possibly winning the Final Fantasy Pixter Remaster Full Collection, provided by Team Murdoch, again until the end of Final Fantasy Legend 2. So if you're interested in Final Fantasy Legend 2 Bid Wars, or you just want to donate some money, maybe get that supervised boss fight for Chained Echoes going, maybe even some of the Byte and Kaitos 1 HD donation incentives, including things like fight the final boss at 200% speed, which is at 39 of 250, and choosing the fourth companion for Lyud at 15 and Savia at 10. We have plenty of donation incentives to receive your money and support Nami. But yeah, we're still getting Final Fantasy Legend 2 set up. So send me your donations and I will read them on the air. Like these donations, we have Dodecalope with $100. Thank you very much. This is MechLink back again. We've got another donation from Golden Devil 1711 for $75. Again, no comment, but thank you nonetheless. We have Neobari with $75 with the classic no comment. Wait, that's a comment. Oops. Since Gyre's about ready to go, we have a $100 donation from the Melmon Tourism Board. So, hello, Gyre. Thank you and your community for kind donations to the Melmon Relief Fund over the years. With your support, we've relocated the Great Melmon Tire Fire a further mile west. This should increase the visibility in town by about... This should increase the visibility in town by about 27% while preserving the haunting red glowing sunsets Melmond is famous for. Chat's right, people. Don't get too close to the Melmond Tire Fire.